Okay, so first we'll talk about basal ganglia. This is actually a involuntary will be there. आपको conscious awareness नहीं होता कि basal ganglia में क्या. Conscious awareness will get only about the motor cortex. But basal ganglia plays very important role to regulate the voluntary movement, increase or decrease tone of the muscles, increase or decrease the strength of the contraction of the muscles, rate of contraction, and also sequencing of the various muscles, at what sequence this muscle will be uh, work. So it is very important for the coordination of the voluntary movement. Okay, so we'll see first the different anatomical part of the basal ganglia. So basal ganglia is actually made up of various nuclear masses. What is meant by nuclear masses? Nuclear masses की क्या idea है?
No idea.
Sir, basal ganglia are the scattered mass of grey matter submerged in subcortical substance of cerebral hemisphere.
So
Sir,
आप देखोगे, आप सेरेब्रम का स्ट्रक्चर देखोगे तो ग्रे मैटर इज यूजुअली आउटसाइड. Okay, so this is a gray matter which is present at the surface, and inside will be complete. This will be complete white matter. So nuclear masses are the portions of the gray matter which embedded within the white matter. So these are also called as subcortical masses. So it is below the cortex. Normally in cerebrum, gray matter is only present in the cortex. So these are the group of the bodies of the neurons. They are present below the cortex. So they are called subcorticals. A group of these masses were present are called nuclear masses, and these are made up of different nuclear masses. So one is divided into three parts: corpus stratum, subthalamic nucleus, and substantia nigra.
nigra.
If you come to the corpus stratum, corpus stratum also divided into two different parts. One is caudate nucleus, which is one of the large nucleus. So this is a part of caudate nucleus, which is this is so this is a part of caudate nucleus, and this is part of lenticular nucleus. Caudate nucleus is medially close to the midline, while lenticular nucleus is laterally peripheral nucleus. If you see the lenticular nucleus, it again divided into two parts. Outer part, which is bigger part, is putamen, and inner part is globus pallidus.
Pallidus.
If you see the this is a cross section. If you see the coronal section, then you can see the caudate nucleus is a large comma-like structure, which ended with the his tail will ended with the amygdaloid body. Okay. Then come to the subthalamic nucleus and substantia nigra. The corpus stratum is separated from the subthalamic nucleus and substantia nigra through the strip of the white matter, and that strip of the white matter is called an internal capsule. Through this internal capsule, lots of tracts, fibers from the cortex goes to the brain stems. So it's a compact. It's very compact structure of this is a very compact structure of the internal capsule, and if any damage occur, it can almost cause a hemiplegia whenever there is damage occur to the internal capsule. So it is separated by the internal capsule, and the subthalamic nucleus is a group of the small nucleus which present just below the thalamus. So this is a portion of thalamus, just below the thalamus that nucleus is present. It is called subthalamic nucleus. It is also called as a body of Lewis. Then below the subthalamic nucleus, there is a strip of the uh, nuclei that is called substantia nigra, and these are usually pigmented portion is there, and it gives more dark color to the gray matter. pigmented portion that gives a dark color. Nigra is stand for the black color. That's why name is given substantia nigra. Then we'll see the different individual part of this. First, we'll talk about corpus stratum, and it is a corpus stratum divided into functionally into two parts, and that is neostratum and paleostratum. Neostratum is, it is very new portion which is evolutionarily generated, or paleostratum is the older portion evolutionarily generated. So paleostratum you will see in lower animal also, while neostratum you will see only in higher animals like elephants, monkeys, and human beings. Okay. Neostratum is also again divided into dorsal and ventral portion, and paleostratum is also divided into dorsal and ventral portion. Then come to the caudate nucleus. It is a part of the corpus stratum. It is, as I said, it is a highly curved and comma-shaped structure, and is one of the largest nucleus present in basal ganglia. And is made up of three portions: head. This is the head portion, body, and tail portion. This caudate nucleus also separates the lenticular nucleus from the from the lenticular nucleus is by the internal capsule, except the lower part of the caudate nucleus where they connected to each other, and the area which connected each other is also called the fundus strata. Then come to the tail of the caudate nucleus is end and become continuous as a putamen, and also it is right close to the amygdaloid body. So tail of the nucleus, caudate nucleus, is also called as a putamen. Then come to the lenticular nucleus. As name suggests, it is look like a lens. It divided into it shows lens-like structure, biconcave lens-like structure. That's the name is given, lenticular nucleus. And if you see by side view, it looks more of triangular structure. Okay, so this is, if you see on front, it will be like a biconcave shape, and if you lateral view, then you will see a triangular structure of the structure, and it is divided into two parts: putamen and globus pallidus. Putamen form the outer part of the lenticular nucleus, and it is usually dark color, and it is roughly quadrilateral in structure, while globus pallidus is inner part, and it is a more smaller part, and it is a little bit more pale as compared to putamen. And this globus pallidus again divided into two sections, that is external segment and internal segment. And these all the parts jo bata raha hu, these all parts have a different functional importance. That's why it is important to understand the anatomy and name of this different part. Then come to the subthalamic nucleus, which is also called the body of Lewis. It is also a group of the circular mass or biconcave mass, and just present below the hypothalamus and lateral to the red nucleus, and little bit anterior to the substantia nigra. Subthalamic nucleus is separated from the ventricular nucleus of the thalamus by the thin sheet of the gray matter, and that is also called as zona incerta. Then come to the substantia nigra. Substantia nigra, as I said, it is a simple strip of the nuclear masses, and it is pigmented nerve cells, and that's why it gives a dark color, and that's why name is given substantia nigra. And the dark color is because of presence of pigment like a neuromelanin, and it extends to the in the midbrain, and it again divided into two different parts: pars compacta, which is a dorsal part, while pars reticularis, which is the anterior part. If you see the pars compacta, it is made up of almost 75% of dopaminergic neuron, which are usually inhibitory type, and 25% of the cholinergic neuron, which is usually excitated type. While pars reticularis is has a connection with the globus pallidus, and these are usually inhibitory type, that is a GABAergic neurons. So pars reticularis usually get inputs, while pars compacta usually sends output. Then come to the connections. The connections are very important in a basal ganglia. So how they connected to each other, because of these connections, they send in excitatory and inhibitory outputs to the different part of the body and can influence the voluntary movement. So usually if you see the connection, the stratum usually forms the main input part of the basal ganglia. So it receives the input from the different part of the brains, and then once input get from there, it sends output to the globus pallidus. So this is internal structure. From stratum gets input from the cortex, red nucleus, thalamus, another part of the brain, and then it sends fibers to the globus pallidus. Major portion goes to the globus pallidus. When it goes to the globus pallidus, it also sends direct fibers to the pars reticularis. Okay. Then globus pallidus will analyze voluntary movement, all those things, and then it sends output and it forms the major output of the basal ganglia, and it sends output to the subthalamic nucleus and also to the pedunculopontine nucleus. From pedunculopontine nucleus, it goes to the substantia nigra, and also from the subthalamic nucleus, the fibers goes to the substantia nigra, and from substantia nigra, few fibers goes to the stratum, and few fibers goes to superior collicular, and from there it goes to reticular formation, and then it goes to the spinal cord through the extrapyramidal tracts, and it influences the activity of alpha motor and gamma motor neurons. So more specifically, it affects the gamma motor neuron, and it is usually inhibitory type. So it reduces the activity of the gamma motor neuron. Okay. Now, if you see the individual structures, so first we'll talk about. See, once I remove someone, I can't add it again. In this classroom, once I removed someone, I can't add it again. Maybe उसका mic on रहा होगा, it keep on noising, और उसका shaky video होगा, उसकी वजह से मैंने उसको निकाला होगा. There was one boy keep on connecting, but वो हो नहीं पा रहा था connect. So उसका connecting आ रहा था. So that's why I removed. So I don't know anyone's name. So because of that, might be I have removed. But once it has been removed from the class, you cannot re-enter. If you want to listen this, I'm already recording it. You can go and see it on YouTube. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now come to the input, coming to the basic ganglion, that is comes directly to the stratum. So it first comes from the cortex. The major input comes from the cortex, as iodines, all those things are coming from the cortex. So from cerebral cortex, it gets inputs from the premotor cortex, supplementary motor cortex, and also from the sensory cortex, and they directly terminate into the stratum, and these are usually glutaminergic neurons. It also get input from the thalamus. Thalamus is like sensory inputs coming. So it comes from the centromedian nucleus of the thalamus, and it directly terminates into the stratum. Then it also get input from the substantia nigra, that is usually from the pars compacta portion of the substantia nigra, and it again terminates into stratum, and these are usually dopaminergic type of the neuron. And it also get input from the raphe which is serotonergic type of the neurons, which is involve the reticular formation of the brain. From there also it get input, and also it get input from the locus ceruleus. Okay. तो ये सारे inputs आ जाता है, and that from that input it increases or decreases the activity of the stratum, and then the stratum projects. This is internal fibers within the basal ganglia, and stratum projects their fibers one to the globus pallidus, which is for major output, and also to the substantia nigra, and which is usually regulatory or increase or decrease activity of the basal ganglia output. So then it comes to the stratum globus pallidus, and large portion of the fibers from the stratum goes to the globus pallidus, and these are usually GABAergic, and these are, as I already said, these are inhibitory type of the projection and reduces the activity of the globus pallidus. It also sends fibers to the substantia nigra, and that is usually in the pars reticulata, and that is also inhibitory type of the activity, that is GABAergic neuron, and it also reduces the activity of the substantia nigra. Then come to the output coming from the basal ganglia, and these are usually come from to the globus pallidus. So first output, it goes to the thalamus. So from the globus pallidus, it goes to the thalamic fasciculus, or also called as the ansa fascicularis, and these fibers are usually arise from the internal segment of the globus pallidus and goes to the ventro-anterior, ventrolateral, and central-median nucleus of the thalamus. And from this thalamus, this fiber project to the frontal cortex and premotor cortex. So it goes to the frontal cortex and premotor cortex and gives idea. It is like kar sakte hai and kar sakte to what sequencing, all those things. Those ideas goes to the motor cortex. Then it also sends fibers to the subthalamic nucleus, and subthalamic nucleus it project into substantia nigra. So from subthalamic nucleus it goes to subthalamic nucleus. From subthalamic nucleus it goes to the substantia nigra. Globus pallidus also sends direct fibers to the substantia nigra. So it goes in three different ways. One is directly reached to the substantia nigra. Second is via subthalamic nucleus, and third is via pediculopontine nucleus, pedunculopontine nucleus. Once the substantia nigra receives all these inputs, substantia nigra analyze and then send its fibers to the reticular formation of the brain, and from there it goes to the spinal tract. So it forms the extrapyramidal tract from reticular formation to the spinal cord. The substantia nigra again sends fiber to the supracolliculus and form the tectospinal tract. From supracolliculus it goes to the tectum, and from tectum it goes to the spinal cord. And then also substantia nigra sends fibers to the habenula. Then fibers also gets to the red nucleus, and this pathway usually fibers go directly to red nucleus, and this pathway usually related to the alertness of the body. So whenever you are doing voluntary movement, your alertness increases. Now you are sitting quietly, you start getting drowsy and all those things. But the moment you do any voluntary movement, you will feel little bit more alert. It is because of this pathway goes to the red nucleus. Then how it works? So it works through the various feedback loops. So there are that loop is called a primary feedback loop, and like a fibers coming from the central cortex, it also comes from the thalamus. Fibers comes there, and then it sends inhibitory input to the globus pallidus. From globus pallidus, it goes to the inhibitory input to the thalamus, and from thalamus, it goes to the again to the motor cortex. So this is how it feedback will be there. Continuously feedback will be coming, and that will affect the activity of voluntary or motor activity, or more specifically, it modifies the activity of alpha motor neuron and gamma motor neuron. Now, how these are circuits? There are different circuits will be there. One is all projects fibers come from the cerebral cortex to stratum. These are usually excitatory type. So these are the continuous line which shows excitation. Excitatory line will be there. So from stratum it goes to the globus pallidus, and these are usually inhibitory type. So the inhibitory type of the fibers will comes here, and again from globus pallidus it goes to the inhibitory type of the fibers to the thalamus. Again it will be the inhibitory. From thalamus it goes again excitatory to the both motor cortex and stratum. So there will, as the double inhibition will increase activity of the thalamus. Okay. Then as it says, it is continuous feedback will be going on, and that will activity, the motor activity, and this motor activity is controlled by the two different loops, and these are called caudate loops and putamen loop. So this is a diagram of the caudate loop and putamen loop. If you see caudate loop, these are usually involve supplementary motor area and sensory motor area. So from the fibers from the supplementary motor and sensory motor area goes to the caudate nucleus, as these are excited. हमने पहले बताया motor cortex से जो भी stratum में आएगा, that will be usually excited nucleus. So it comes to caudate nucleus, and from there it goes inhibitory input to the both caudal globus pallidus internal segment and substantia nigra pars reticularis. तो उसका caudal portion में जाएगा, that these are usually negative input, and from there it again goes to more negative input to the thalamus, ventrolateral nucleus of the thalamus, and also ventrolateral nucleus of medialis portion of the thalamus. So it goes to the thalamus, and that is usually both are inhibitory, and from thalamus it goes back to the supplementary cortex, and these are usually excitatory type of the nucleus, and this continuous loop will be formed, and these are more related to the conscious activity of the voluntary movement, and also it involves the regulation of the eye movement. Then come to the putamen. Putamen usually get inputs from the frontal association area directly to the putamen. These are usually excitatory type of the neurons. Then from putamen it goes to the globus pallidus rostral parts and substantia nigra rostral parts, which are usually inhibitory type of the nuclear output. And from the globus pallidus it goes to the ventroanterior nucleus, parvocellular portion, and that is also again inhibitory portion. And also it goes to the, from substantia nigra it goes to the meganocellular part of the ventroanterior nucleus of the thalamus, which is also negative part. And from there it goes a positive output to the frontal associated area. This forms another loop, and these are usually of associated movement and accessory movements of the body, and also creates the idea about whether the actual action intended or not. So these work together, and this is how it will modify or increase excitation or decrease excitation of the muscle. Now if you see here, now suppose there is a increased excitatory output from the motor area. So both high excitation either इन्होंने कर दिया, and that activate the caudate nucleus. Caudate nucleus will causes inhibition. So there will be the more inhibition. Okay. तो globus pallidus और substantia nigra में inhibition create होगा, and it will inhibit the activity of globus pallidus and substantia nigra, which usually inhibit this thalamic part. So inhibition से होगा तो इनको inhibit होगा तो यहाँ की activity बहुत कम हो जाएगी. There will be very less inhibition, and that's why it will causes excitation. So अगर यहाँ से excitation हो रहा है तो ultimate effect will be the excitation. So if there is a decreased excitatory activity here, it will decrease excitatory input also, and this is how it will work together. So there will be double inhibition will be there, and this will because of the double inhibition, it will precise the action varies with a small activity, and there will be very precise corrections in the voluntary movement. कितना strength लगाना है, कितने duration के लिए करना है, and all those things will be done at the level of the basal ganglia. Similarly, यहाँ पे आप देखोगे तो दो जगह पे inhibition होता है, and that will ultimately leads to excitation, but output is inhibitory. So that usually जो बाहर voluntary extrapyramidal tract से जो output जाएंगे to rapid nucleus and other things, that final output will be the usually inhibitory from the basal ganglia, and that will keep on reducing the activity of the voluntary muscle, so that there will be it will always in a control, or always excitation of the muscles will be always under the check, so that it will not get overexcited and there may not be over contraction of the muscles than required. Simple example, if I am taking this also, if it is over contracted, then it will spill water on my face. That doesn't happen because of presence of this double inhibition on the voluntary movement. Okay, then come to the functions of the basal ganglia. Before we start this function of the basal ganglia, I think we should take a 5 minutes break. Okay. Okay, now come to the functions of basal ganglia. Basal ganglia play a very important in voluntary movement. So it actually has a cognitive control on motor activities, timing and scaling of the intensity of the muscle like contraction or movements. Subconscious also it subconsciously control of the associated movement or accessory movement. Like if I'm talking, then control of the my expression, all those things, which is not a primary movement. So it is also a subconscious regulation of these muscles. It also has a influence on a reflex activity, muscular reflexes. It also has an effect on the muscle tone, and it also plays a very important role in arousal from the sleep. So first we'll talk about the cognitive regulation of the motor activity. So as I said, it's involved in planning and programming of the voluntary movement. So we get idea from the cortical association area, and it goes to the motor cortex. It also goes to the basal ganglia and cerebellum. From there, it again goes to the motor cortex inputs, and then motor cortex will form a final uh, output and send it to the voluntary muscles. And this is how the uh, motor activity will be working. And all these effect of cognitive functions will be performed through the caudate loop. Then come to the timing and scaling of the motor activity. It is usually a coordination of the voluntary movement, where how it is smoothly and perfectly it is performed, and these all occur through the various extrapyramidal tracts, and they sense either increase or decrease the contraction of the voluntary muscles, and so that the movement will be more smooth and it will be more accurate, and it will be as close as like a actual movement and intended movement will be almost a replica of each other. So this has been done by the basal ganglia, and we can understand this if there is a damage to the basal ganglia, then the timing and scaling functions of the basal ganglia body will be very poor, and that we can see when we are talking about applied part, then which part of the basal ganglia damage, then how it affects the voluntary movement. Then it also execution of the subconscious execution of the some moments, like associated moments, like when we are walking, then there is a swinging of the arms, or facial expression when you are talking, or hand movements when you are talking, or like a limbs movement which is coordinated. आप हाथ कर रहे हो तो उसके साथ साथ पैर के भी मूवमेंट होती रहती है, like a swimming or when you're driving. uh, First you need to learn clutch कब दबाना है, brake कब दबाना है, accelerator कब दबाना है. But once you become expert, then the involuntary it occurs. When I want to need to stop, then I don't have to think about the अरे मुझे ब्रेक ढूंढ के ब्रेक लगाना है, but there will involuntarily your feet will be contracted. वो ब्रेक वाला जो leg होगा वही contract करेगा. And that happens even if you are not sitting on driving seats and you are sitting in the other seat. Then also when you think car should stop, then involuntarily your legs will be make that a moment, so that it is like you are pressing a brake. So this involuntarily occur. This is called subconscious uh, uh, voluntary movements. So that is occur, and this is very one of the important function to perform your any movement more effectively. Like if I am speaking, but if it is not associated with the expressions or body movements, then that my speech will be very ineffective. The same way, to make any actions very effectively, these associated movements are very important. Like you're walking, then there is swinging of the arm will balance your body, so it is continuously going on, and that's why this subconscious will be there, and these are usually subconscious activities will occur through the putamen feedback loop. Then come to the
Excuse me, sir.
yes.
सर हमने पहले तो पढ़ा था कि बेसल गैंग्लियन जो है ना वो वॉलेंटरी मूवमेंट को कंट्रोल करते हैं, वॉलेंटरी मोटर मूवमेंट। तो
हाँ,
इनवॉलेंटरी की बात इसमें कहाँ से आ गई?
these are also voluntary
तो
movements, but subconscious voluntary movements. मीन्स आप वॉलेंट्रीली वो वॉलेंट्री मूवमेंट्स नहीं कर रहे.
सही।
समझ में आ रहा है? इनवॉलेंट्री मूवमेंट
जी
जो
सर।
मैं हार्ट की या जीआई ट्रैक्ट की नहीं कर रहे. दिस इन्वॉल्व इन मूवमेंट्स ऑफ वॉलेंट्री मसल्स कॉन्ट्रैक्शन. वॉलेंट्री मसल्स आर स्केलेटल मसल्स.
वॉलंटरी मसल्स, स्केलेटल मसल्स हो गए,
तो स्केलेटल
मूवमेंट के
मसल्स
अंदर
के
इन्वॉल्व है।
सबकॉन्शियस कॉन्ट्रैक्शन होता है. Now, simple, if you see one of the reflex, I will explain you. Like if when you're walking, have you observed
Yes.
yourself that your limbs will be swing automatically?
या
These are not voluntary movement. आप voluntarily उसको मूव नहीं कर रहे हो, but वो हो रहे हैं. You got my point?
ओके।
So
यस
without your
सर।
conscious awareness, that movements are occurring. That's why name is given subconscious voluntary movements.
ओके सर।
Okay? It is not activity of involuntary movements. Involuntary muscles की activity नहीं हो रही है. Muscles which are involved here are voluntary muscles, all muscles. जैसे अभी मैं बात कर रहा हूँ तो आपके फेशियल एक्सप्रेशन चेंज होते हैं. आप चेंज करते हो कि ऑटोमेटिक होते हैं. इफ यू आर नॉट डूइंग एक्टिंग and if normal conversation चल रहा है, तो your facial expression changes. You can observe your friend's facial expressions. These are all involuntary occurs. मतलब आपके conscious awareness में नहीं होता है. And that occurs subconsciously. I'm talking about those moments. Got it?
ओके सर। यस यस।
Then come to the reflex activity. As I said, कि basal ganglia sends the output to the extrapyramidal tract, and it influences the activity of gamma motor neuron. So basal ganglia inhibit the activity of gamma motor neuron, and that inhibition will reduces the spinal reflexes. Not only deep tendon reflexes, but also superficial reflexes. And so that mm, it helps to maintain a normal posture by reducing the all these things, and also it coordinate between the visual and labyrinthine reflex, which is important for the eye movements when your head is moving, so that your visual field will be more steady. Then, as already said, it inhibits the activity of gamma motor neuron, which is also responsible for the maintenance of the tone of the muscles by increasing the activity of muscle spindle. And because of this, basal ganglia are responsible for the decrease in the muscle tone or try to maintain the low muscle tone in the body. If there is damage occur to this tract which coming from the basal ganglia, then it will increase the muscle tone. Then basal ganglia also plays a very important role in arousal mechanism. Exact mechanism is not we know, but whenever there is a damage occur to the globus pallidus, it is usually associated with the uncontrolled sleep or drowsiness. Because of this only we understand that there is an involvement of the globus pallidus and red nucleus for arousal moment. That you can also identify about this arousal moment. Now, if you are sitting quietly without any voluntary movement, slowly you will start feeling drowsiness. But if you do any voluntary movement, you will immediately feel alert. That will do like something. Oh no, like this you will get up. So this voluntary movement will arouse you. So that is all occur because of increased activity in globus pallidus. Okay, then come to the applied part of the basal ganglia. So basal ganglia applied part, most commonly asked disease is Parkinson's disease. It is also called as a paralysis agitans, and Parkinson's name is given a scientist who describe this disease. And it is usually involvement of the dopaminergic neurons of substantia nigra. So whenever there is occur degeneration of the substantia nigra dopaminergic neuron, this is usually inhibitory part of the substantia nigra, and that loses the inhibitory effect on a globus pallidus. No, not it inhibitory effect on stratum, and that causes more and more excitation of the stratum. So, and that break or disturbs the complete chordate loops and putamen loop, and that has a defect in a voluntary movement. Causes are when a cause exactly you don't know about degeneration of the substantia nigra, then we call it a primary or idiopathic condition. So that usually disease is usually called Parkinson's syndrome when we don't know the exact cause. As if causes are there which can cause direct degeneration, then these are causes are like viral encephalitis can cause damage directly to the basal ganglia. Then cerebral atherosclerosis can cause a decreased blood supply and ischemic damage to the basal ganglia. Then some drugs like phenothiazine, long-term use of this phenothiazine can cause damage to the substantia nigra. And one drug is called methyl phenyl tetrahydropyridine. This drug are injected into the animals to produce experimentally a disease similar to the Parkinsonism, so that we can see the effect of various drugs on Parkinsonism. So for drug trial, we use this type of the animal. Okay. Now exactly what happened in Parkinson's disease. So if you see the normal Parkinson's disease, there is a cortex send excited input to the putamen. From putamen it goes inhibitory input to the globus pallidus. From globus pallidus it goes to the substantia nigra. This is also again inhibitory input. From substantia nigra it goes to the globus pallidus, which is usually excitatory, and from globus pallidus it goes inhibitory input to the thalamus, and then it goes cortex and sends finally excitatory input. At the same time, it also sends the inhibitory input to the peduncular nucleus, and from there it goes to the spinal cord, which is also of the inhibitory output. So it will cause, in normal, it will cause excitation of the spinal cord and also slight inhibition by the peduncular nucleus. So there is more excitation. Now what happens? There is a dopaminergic neuron has been completely lost, and that will substantia nigra dopaminergic part will be completely affected. And now what will happen? There is no inhibition of the putamen. So the excitative output will come. That excitative output will cause more inhibition of the globus pallidus. And the more inhibition will lead to more inhibition of the substantia nigra, and that will lead to more inhibitory output from the thalamus. That will causes less excitation of the cortex. And from cortex, there will be the less excitation goes to the spinal cord. And so the output coming from the globus pallidus will be very less, and which reach to the very less level to the spinal cord, and that will lead to incoordination moment or decreased inhibition of the volume neuron, increased excitation and increased tone. As a less output goes to the spinal cord, and it has a very inhibitory effect on the gamma motor activity. So it will increases the gamma motor activity, and it will increase the tone. It will increase the excitation of the muscles, and there will be more contraction of the muscle. At the same time, since less output is going to the cortex may be less output रहता है, so it will make it very difficult to initiate the movement also. So it has a both. There is an increased activity, that is hyperkinetic phase of the muscle, and also decreased muscular activity, hypokinesia. So it will shows both hyperkinesia and hypokinesia. Kinesia stands for the movement. So it's a hyper movement and hypo movement also. So what are the clinical features? You will see this. As I said, it is both shows hypokinetic effect also and hyperkinetic effect. So what are the type of the hypokinetic effect will be there? This patient unable to initiate the voluntary movement. Like if you ask the person to walk from the one point to this another point, he will take more time to walk. If you ask him name, he know what his name, but he will take little bit more time to tell you the name. So there is a delay in the response, delayed in a voluntary movement. That condition is called akinesia. It is complete loss of initiation of the movement, then we call it akinesia. Or when there is a delay in the initiation of the movement, then we call it as a hypokinesia. Then it is all these occur because of increased muscle tone and also delayed excitation of the spinal cord. Then there is a bradykinesia. So you cannot change the moment. Once you start the moment, it will be difficult for you to stop that moment. So there will be a bradykinesia. And if you can identify this, if you ask person to start from the one point to the another point, he will take a time to start. But when he start, it is very difficult to stop. And that phenomenon is called retropulsor. So आप उसको पुश कर दोगे ना तो वॉक करना चालू हो जाएगा. Once walking has been started, it will be very difficult and many times you'll hit to the opposite side of the wall. Same moment you can see that with the bradycardia. You will ask him to do this type of the movement alternatively, supination, pronation, and he will not able to do. He will do like something like this, and that is also very slowly. Then
Sir,
associated. Sorry.
all these movement depends on dopamine,
Yeah,
slowness or loss.
dopaminergic neurons loss हो जाता है. That's why it reduces the inhibition
Sir,
of. Yes.
सर और कोई भी ऐसा नहीं होता कि डोपामिन की कमी को पूरा कर सके?
नहीं. ब्रेन इज वेरी पर्टिकुलर. हर चीज के लिए एक पर्टिकुलर केमिकल्स है, हर चीज के लिए पर्टिकुलर न्यूरॉन्स है, उसमें कोई रिजर्वायर नहीं है. इफ समथिंग डैमेज
सर
इन द
मींस
ब्रेन,
जैसे इंजेक्शन
हाँ ट्रीटमेंट पे आऊंगा मैं.
जैसे इंजेक्शन यूज किए जाते हैं.
ट्रीटमेंट पे आऊंगा. ये जैसे क्लिनिकल पिक्चर खत्म हो जाएंगे. इट इज इंपॉर्टेंट टू
ओके
डायग्नोज द पार्किंसंस डिसीज. आप इसको कोई सीटी स्कैन एमआरआई से नहीं डायग्नोज कर सकते. You can diagnose it on clinical basis. So it is very important to identify the clinical features. Okay?
पार्किंसन डिजीज. ओके सर.
कोई ब्लड टेस्ट नहीं कि आप ब्लड में से देखोगे उसमें डोपामिन की कमी हो गई है. There is nothing like a blood test you'll get. So it is more important to diagnose with your clinical examination. Okay? So second thing will be absence of the associated movements. Like there will be no facial expression. So he will talk to you without changing any facial expressions. So mask face appearance. जैसे कि उसने मास्क लगा लिया और सिर्फ होठ हिल रहे. तो you'll get that mask face appearance. When he's walking, he will be walking without any associated movements. Hand movements will not be there. Only legs movement will be there. And that leg movement is also very small steps and very fast steps. And that type of the gait is called as a shuffling gait. Since there is a decreased inhibition of the gamma motor activity, it will increase the tone of the muscle. So there is hypertonicity, and that causes a little bit flexion of the spine. And so it will be little bit bending forward, like it is about to fall. And that's why many times it is also called the stooping gait. Shuffling gait, stooping gait is a typical clinical feature of the Parkinsonism. Okay. Then come to the hyperkinetic features. That is, first is increase in tone. Whenever there is increase in tone, that we can call it as spasticity or rigidity. Spasticity, when there is only increase in the tone during initiation of the movement and end of the movement. While rigidity is where the tone is constant throughout the movement. So here you will see the increase in tone throughout the movement. So it shows the rigidity. And rigidity also are two types, the cogwheel type of the rigidity and lead pipe rigidity. Here you can see both. Initially it will be like a lead pipe rigidity, so smooth and constant increase in tone throughout the movement. And if that goes in severe cases, then there will be the tremor. So when rigidity is associated with tremor, then you will see cogwheel type of the rigidity. So there will be increased tone lock, and there is a break in the resistance. So increase and decrease and increase and decrease in the resistance to the movement. And since the flexor muscles of the body has a more muscle spindle as compared to extensor, it attains the flex attitude. Like arms will be flexed, legs will be little flexed, bending forward. All those things will be there. It is all because of the increased gamma motor activity. Tremor, it is a tremor. We can call it as a like a involuntary rhythmic oscillatory movement. Okay, usually with the agonist and antagonist muscle. So now, if you see Sriram Lagu, if you know from Marathi side, then you know one actor Sriram Lagu used to speak like this. So this is example of tremor, the continuous shaking head of the movement. So this is also example of tremor. Okay, the continuous shaking of the hand. You see if you're any old person in your family, then you can see these hands are shaking and all those things. Those movements are called tremor. So tremors in Parkinson's disease, you will see tremor even if person is at a rest. So rest पे होगा तो there will be the tremor, like he will keep on shaking his hand. And usually this tremor suppressed when patient is in a deep sleep, and if patient has excitement or aggression, then this tremors will get excited. And initial stages, this tremors usually uh, stop when you initiate the movement, but the case becomes severe, then you can see the tremors even during voluntary movement. And if the typical feature of this tremor is the supination pronation of the wrist joint, a flexion and extension of thumb along with the digit. So it will be like this. And this movement is called frill rolling movement of the hand. Like आप उसके हाथ में cotton balls दे दो और whip दे दो, तो it is like you will make a thread from the cotton ball. Okay. So these are how you can diagnose the Parkinson's disease. So the cardinal feature is mask face, absence of associated movements, stooping gait, difficult to initiate the movement, difficult to stop the movement, alternate supination, pronation, bradykinesia will be there. This is also called dysdiadochokinesia, and presence of rigidity and presence of tremor. So these are the typical feature of the Parkinson's disease, and it is usually occur in older age. Okay, how we can treat this patient? As we know the pathology, because there is an absence of or decrease in the dopaminergic neuron. So there is actually decrease dopamine in the basal ganglia. So dopamine output will be very low, and there will be increased cholinergic. This goes simultaneously. So if you compare with the dopaminergic output, cholinergic output will be little bit high. So there will be increased cholinergic activity. So what we can do, either we can increase dopaminergic activity or we can reduce the cholinergic activity. So we can, in initial stage, we can give the anticholinergic drug, but that will stimulate more dopamine receptor. That will increase the degeneration. That will increase the progress of the disease. So we don't start immediately with the anticholinergic treatment, but we'll start with the dopaminergic treatment. We can give dopamine to the patient, but problem with the dopamine is that dopamine cannot pass the blood-brain barrier. So we had another drug which is similar to dopamine, and that is called levodopa, and which can easily pass through the blood-brain barrier. As a dopamine deficiency is within the basal ganglia, so it has to pass through the blood-brain barrier. So we use levodopa, which can go to the blood-brain barrier, and whatever the dopamine deficiency will be there, that will be fulfilled by this levodopa. But problem with this levodopa is that it also present in throughout the body, and the levodopa will convert it into dopamine in the brain also and in the body also, and that will increase dopamine concentration throughout the body. That can have side effects of the dopamine, like increased blood pressure, increased excitation of the muscle and other things. So we don't want all those things. So we combine this levodopa with another chemical that is called carbidopa, which is actually inhibitor of the inhibit the conversion of the levodopa into the dopamine. But advantage of carbidopa is that it cannot cross the blood-brain barrier. So whatever levodopa present in the body, that will not convert into dopamine, and that will remain into the blood, and more levodopa will be available to pass through the blood-brain barrier and enter into the brain. And as the carbidopa is not present inside the brain, so inside the brain, levodopa will convert into dopamine, and there will be the high amount of the dopamine available in the brain. So when we combine this L-dopa and carbidopa, it gives advantage that it reduces the required dose of the L-dopa, because L-dopa is not converted into body, it is only converted into the brain, and it also makes the smooth, high, constant concentration of the dopamine in the brain. But as disease progresses, the amount of the dopaminergic neuron will keep on decreasing, and the degeneration will continue. And when you're providing this L-dopa and all those things, it will reduce the stimulation of the dopaminergic neuron. That again progresses the more degeneration of the dopaminergic neuron. So it is not a like a curative treatment. It's just like a palliative treatment we are giving, and we are making person to live more longer normal life. But what we can do if the patient is not responding to the levodopa, we can go for the surgical treatment. And surgical treatment is we can district the part of the globus pallidus or also canal ventrolateral nucleus of thalamus so that it will reduces the excitation of the thalamus and that will reduce the output. That's another surgical treatment. Nowadays, research is going on planning to implant the fetal dopaminergic neurons into the basal ganglia so that the basal ganglia will accept those neurons and it can increase the formation of more dopamine into the basal ganglia. So it is still under the research of the surgical process. So this is all about the Parkinson's disease. Then come to the chorea and athetosis. Chorea is called rapid jerky involuntary movements, and these are usually occur with the damage to the caudate nucleus, and it is usually associated with the rheumatic fever. While athetosis is slow rhythmic movement, and it is usually associated with damage to the putamen nucleus, and these are usually occur when baby is delivering during birth injury. Okay. Then come to the Huntington's disease. It's also called Huntington's chorea, and this is usually autosomal dominant disorder, but it appears in adulthood at the age of 30 to 50. And here it causes a decrease of GABAergic and cholinergic neurons from the caudate and putamen nucleus that usually project in the pallidum. And since this GABAergic neurons has been lost, so it causes a decreased inhibition and it produces the hyperkinetic movements. And because of the hyperkinetic movement, there is a chorea type of the movement will be there, jerky movement will be there, and that will keep on increasing as the disease progresses. Speech will become more slur and incomprehensible, and patient will also start developing the dementia. Okay, and since the autosomal dominant, we can only do the symptomatic treatment like providing anticholinergic neurons and all those things that only we can providing cholinergic drugs and other things that only we can do, but it's very difficult to treat this patient, and because patient could not able to control their activity, they will go into more and more depression. Then come to another disease that is hemibalismus. It is usually occur when the damage occur to the subthalamic nucleus, and these are usually occur because of hemorrhage, and it reduces the inhibitory output to the globus pallidus internal segment, and also pars compact of the substantia nigra, and this leads to disinhibition of the thalamus and increase hyperkinetic movement, and it produces slow rhythmic type of the movement of the proximal joints, and it is like a patient is a dancing belly dancer like of movement will be increased, and that usually involve the hub of the body, and that's why name is given hemibalismus. Here also it is very difficult to treat this patient, and patient usually goes under depression because his body is not under his own control. Then come to the Wilson's disease. It is a disease which is associated with the copper toxicity. When our body will not able to process the copper because of absence of the ceruloplasmin, which is not able to transport the copper, or some other reason copper is not able to excreted from the body. That time these coppers will start accumulating in the body, and the site where they accumulate is in the lenticular nucleus of the basal ganglia and liver. That's why it is also called the hepatolenticular degeneration. And it started damaging the lenticular nucleus and particularly putamen nucleus and produce a disease like Parkinson's disease will be there. And it also causes liver cirrhosis. And diagnostic feature is if you observe his eyes, you will see golden copper ring. surrounding the cornea. That is called Fisher's ring, that you can see, and that patient will be present with cirrhosis and Parkinson's disease. And this is one of the disease which can be prevent the damage to the brain, and we can prevent the progress of the disease if you diagnose it early. Diagnosis will be done by the measuring the level of the cerebral plasmin. If it is really very low, that will give confirmatory diagnosis of the Wilson's disease. And here you can use chelating agents which can remove the copper from the body and reduce supply of the copper to the body. Okay, that's all about the today's class. Any questions, any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a nice day.